Welcome back. We're working on our mobile first Navbar, and I discovered a little troubling area here, and that is when we load our page at a narrow window, you'll notice the menu is showing. And for mobile first, you need to have it not showing to begin with, and then when you click it, have it show. Now, if I resize it, it shows, so that's good. The resize was working. And then when I go back, I want it kind of doing the opposite. So we're just going to clean this up a little bit. Now, part of the thing is, the problem is our class of hidden. If you may recall on here, we're saying when we click the responsive toggle button, we're going to toggle the class hidden, which means if hidden is there, it goes away. If it's not there, it appears. And so clearly what's going on is it doesn't have a class of hidden. And so let's take a look at the window, and we've got this right here. Notice the UL class. I've got the developer toolkit open. That's this unordered list, and notice the class is nav pills. And when I click it, you'll see that it has a class of hidden right there. When I click it again, that goes away. Okay, so that's really what's going on here. So what we need to do is have it so when it loads, if we're in a mobile window, we want to hide the navbar and then only expand it when we click it. So let's go to our code over here. And so part of the thing is we have this document.ready function. And we have this thing that says remove class. One of the things I can do is I can take this if check, and I can even check it when the document is loaded. So I'm going to just copy that code there. And I'm going to place it outside of this click. And we're just going to say when the document is ready, we're going to check this out. And I'm going to shift tab that back a little bit. Okay, if the width is instead of greater than equal to 768, which I think it was already working, we're going to say if the width is less than 768, and instead of removing the class, we're going to add the class. So let's save our changes and see if that works. I'm going to just hit refresh on our load. It should be gone, and it is. If I click it, it comes back, so that's working now. Now we also have this remove class when we resize the window. Now notice what happens. I resized it out, I resized it in, and it didn't disappear. So that's part of the resize function here. And we already checked to see if it's greater than or equal to 768. We remove the class. Why don't we just say, if that's not the case, we add the class. So we put a little else block in there, and then I'm just going to copy this. So now, when we load, if it's a smaller window, it adds the class of hidden. And when we resize the window, if it's smaller than 768, we add that class of hidden. And that should be, at this point, foolproof to the point where even I can't break it. See, foolproof, never mind, okay. All right, look, I loaded it. We expand it, we close it, we expand it, let's resize it. Okay, okay. Did it not remove the class? Interesting. So that should be working. Okay, if I go wide enough, it goes away, and I get a little narrow, so it's not actually hiding it here. So I need to get the width of the screen at this stage. And one of the ways I can do that is go to Computed, and I can click on the body. So that's 869. So I see what's going on here. We have this window size greater than equal to 768. We removed the class, but the toggle button is not moving. It's not going away. Well, I think I know what's happening. What's happening is that toggle button is being hidden through CSS. Yeah, so anything larger than 768 still has a toggle button. If we're going to show the menu items on here vertically and not have a toggle button, then we need to hide it at a different stage. So that's going to be done through our CSS. Yeah, responsive toggle. We hid that at this size here. So I think we need to do that 768. We hide the responsive toggle. So I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to do another @media. Hide responsive toggle here. Save my changes. So you see what I did? I just added another breakpoint. I think that was a leftover from an earlier when I was working on that. Let's see if that is helping us now. Hit refresh. Toggle button should be gone when we do this. Yep. $7.99. We can see it. No toggle button. I would imagine at this width, I think we're probably good. If you want to change that, you can. That's totally your choice. So what you can do is we can change the responsive toggle and the hidden based on the width. But at least at this point, you now know how to play around with different settings. We're going to add one more piece here, and we're going to get started on it. We may not have time to do it all. But what I would like to do is let's address as we do the hovering. So at this point, if I hover over a page with the nested list, I can see it. I can see the children under here because I hovered over here. You can't hover on a mobile device unless you have a mouse attached. So what we're going to need to do is add our own responsive toggle over on the side that will allow us to click to expand on the screen. So we're going to use another glyphicon for that from Bootstrap. So when I go to Get Bootstrap Components, and I'm looking at glyphicons, there's the little circle with the plus sign and a minus sign. That would indicate you click it, it expands. You click the minus, it contracts. You can also do these up and down arrows. What else do we have? We've got this, chevron up, chevron down. So that's another nice little technique you can do. You can do little circles with the arrows in them. There was one more, I think, down towards the bottom, kind of like the chevrons. There, you could do these little triangles up and down, or these menu up, menu down. Your choice, which one you want to do. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways we can do it. Notice how we added our button here using this in our WordPress. Unfortunately, to actually generate the menu, it was this code here. So if you're working on a site like a WordPress site where you've got some PHP function calls or maybe an ASP or something, you won't have the luxury of being able to just insert these buttons in there. So we're going to have to do it a different way. We're going to have to do it using we're going to have to use it with JavaScript. So we're going to go back to JavaScript sheet here, and we're going to have to add more code. First thing I want to do is add some comments so I know what I'm doing. So like a good programmer, I just added a couple comments for things that we had already done. And so what we're going to do is when we load, we're going to make sure that we want to add these toggles on all these menu width, right? So when it's loaded, we want to hide the menu. The other thing we're going to do, actually, you know what? We could go ahead and create a button right on the loading of the document, and then we can use CSS to hide that toggle button or not. So again, there's multiple ways of doing this. Okay, so we're going to add nested toggle buttons. Okay. So we're going to use our handy dandy developer toolkit thing. And let's just go ahead. We get our button, our UL, and let's toggle this class about the test. So let's go over here and we click about the test. One of the things you'll notice, it's a list item, and we have this page item has children. So my recommendation is we add our little responsive toggle to any list item with the page item has children right there. So I'm just going to copy it right from here. So I put my little $sign. And in quotes, I'm going to paste that page item has children with a little dot in front. So saying anything that has a class of page item dot has children. Add a little dot here. And we're going to want to add some HTML. But the question is, where are we going to add it? The about the test is the hyperlink, and that's going to show on the left. So we want to put it basically after the hyperlink, right after that, but before we have the UL. I did a little digging at jQuery, and I discovered there's a function called .after, and what it does is it adds content after. So if you have this .inner, meaning anything with a class of inner, and you have a .after, and you want to insert some content, it will take it and insert it right after that we selected. That's what we want. So we're going to go back in here. We have the page item has children. And then I'm going to put a space and A. Actually, I probably have to be careful about this. It has to be the first hyperlink of that. We're going to try the first child pseudo selector, put a colon, first child. So we're just going to say, if a page item has children, we're going to look for the first hyperlink of that page item has children. And then we're going to add after it, we're going to add our Bootstrap Glyphicon button, and let's see if this works. So I went ahead and I copied it from Get Bootstrap, the button, type button, and now I realize I've got issues here. And don't say what you're thinking. All right, the kind of issues I'm talking about are with my code. If I put a single quote instead of a double quote, then all of my double quotes, well, I'm still having an issue here. Okay, I'm going to want to get word wrap. I'm going to have to save this, and I'm going to have to view this in Notepad++, because there we can add word wrap onto it. Okay, and so I have word wrap on here, and this right here, this after button type, this is causing some problems when they're on multiple lines. So what I'm going to do is put this all on one line. I'm going to get rid of that word star because we don't need that. And you see here, now we got a single quote here, single quote here. So we can add all the double quotes inside. It's one of the reasons why sometimes you'll see a lot of coders use a single quote instead of double. It helps resolve these kinds of issues. Otherwise, we'd have to use an escape, which would be a backslash, quotation mark. We don't have to at this point. But we're going to change the glyphicon, not to glyphicon star, but I'm going to put chevron, and I'm going to put up, which means it's up, it's not expanded. Let's save our changes and see if this is working. Go back to my page, click on here, resize, reload. Let's see if it's working. Okay, so now we see that about the test. We can see there it is. If I hover over it, we have some issues. All right, so we're not quite there, but we've at least showed how we can sort of add these. We're going to need to style them, and let's take a look at let's look at our code and see where exactly it placed those buttons and what's going on there. Yeah, it happened right after the hyperlink, and so what we're probably going to want to do is float this thing to the side, or we might even want to stick it inside of the hyperlink, although I think outside is probably our best bet. To do this, we're going to add one more class to this button. We're going to call this nested toggle. So instead of the responsive toggle, we're going to add a class of nested toggle. And then we're going to float that thing to the right and adjust it a little bit. So let's take a look at our page. And oops, hold on a second. Let me hit refresh. Let me get the developer tool open, expand it, and now you see that button there. We need to move it off to the right. So I'm going to click on it, and under styles, I'm going to add a new style. And then I'm going to put float, right, So now that moves it to the right. See that? And we're going to have to play around with it a little bit more, but I can see I've already run out of time. So on the next one, we'll take what we started here and we'll style it to better display on the page.